So for today's video guys, I'm about to show you the best Nvidia Control Panel settings Fortnite pros use in order to get better performance in Fortnite. Quick disclaimer in the beginning guys, I know many of you right now already use the Nvidia app, which has been out for quite some time right now, but still the Nvidia Control Panel is just superior in my opinion because you have way more fine settings which you can tune in there, so therefore it definitely makes sense that you still use the Nvidia Control Panel. That's at least what I would recommend you and also what most Fortnite pros use by right now, so therefore make sure that you keep your Nvidia drivers somewhat up to date. But you know what's also super important? Getting really good ping. And this is where no ping comes in clutch. Are you currently struggling with super high ping in all of your favorite games? This is exactly where no ping is coming in clutch. No ping is going to help you to pick the best DNS servers in your near to make sure that you have the least amount of ping. All you have to do is select your favorite game and it's going to show you all these servers which are available in your near. Now all you have to do is pick the one with the least amount of MS and you're going to get the most secure and best connection to these game servers. On top of that, the brand new improved version of the no ping client has some of the best FPS tweaks which are all approved and well tested, built directly into the client. And with my link in the video description, you can try it out for absolutely free. So therefore, make sure that you check it out right now and elevate your gaming experience. In the first place, guys, search up the Nvidia Control Panel just in your Windows search bar and click under Nvidia Control Panel. Once it's opened up, it should look somewhat similar to this right now here. First step, we can see now adjust image settings with preview. And then here under preview, you gotta first of all use my preference. You gotta put it all the way to performance, click on apply. And now we're gonna use the advanced 3D image settings and take me there. That way now we can basically start with a fresh page. Now for one of the first features guys, we have image scaling, which is actually quite an interesting feature, don't get me wrong there. Theoretically how it works is, let's say that your monitor is 1920 x 1080p, you put your resolution anything below and it's gonna upscale your picture. You're still gonna maintain more and better FPS and it's sort of like a mechanism just trying to upscale your picture to still look decent. Personally, I would still recommend you guys to just use straight up a stretch resolution. That one works a lot better guys and you have less ghosting or glitches or some other stuff happening on screen because of course image scaling is not perfect as of right now, but you could definitely give it a try. Ambient occlusion, this one you want to keep on off. Anti-strophic filtering, this one you're gonna keep straight up on application control. Options like these here just make more sense to just straight up change in Fortnite directly, so therefore make sure that it's set to application controlled. FXAA, the same thing now, this one you're going to put to off. Gamma correction you're going to leave on since it basically determines how lightning reflects off surfaces and stuff like that, and we want our Fortnite to look pretty dang good guys. Like you don't want your Fortnite to look boring. This is just a personal preference and it's barely even changing performance. Then anti-aliasing mode, this one as well guys, you're going to keep under application controlled. Same thing again, something which you want to apply directly in your Fortnite settings. Next up we have anti-aliasing transparency and this one is the edge smoothing effect. That one is also pretty self-explanatory. Basically, if you have any objects, in-game items or whatsoever and it's further away, you sometimes notice that edges aren't even. You know, it's a little bit flicking, and even though you look at a house as an example, the edges aren't straight. You know, the house is kind of like a little bit bugging. And yeah, I have to say, for Fortnite, it literally doesn't even matter that much. Like for me personally, I play on performance mode. I don't even notice the difference anymore. If you're someone who somehow notices this, I guess you could use number 2x, which is a basic edge smoothing filter, which is somehow gonna make it a little bit less noticeable. But for me, as mentioned, since we're going for maximum performance, I just simply keep it on off. Now background application maximum frame rate, also quite interesting one. Let's say as an example that you maybe use Google Chrome or anything like that to listen to music in the background. You could put your Google Chrome realistically on something like 20-30 FPS, you know, that's kind of a nice thing I guess to have. It doesn't make such a huge performance factor, but again guys, if you collect a bunch of smaller ones, it's definitely gonna add up overall. But for me personally, I keep this on off. Now CUDA GPUs, here what you want to do is make sure that you select your main GPU which you use on your PC, which for me is the Nvidia GeForce RTX 4060 on this build here. Just simply make sure that your main GPU is checked guys. This is most important for people with multiple GPUs. Let's say that you have integrated graphics from your Intel CPU and then you have additional one here which could be like a 40 series, 30 series, whatever guys use right now or whatever is up to date. So therefore make sure that the main one is selected in here. Super easy. The CUDA sysmem fallback policy you're gonna leave on driver default. You don't really have to worry about this mode at all. DSR factors is kind of interesting as well now, but it's basically useless for Fortnite. Let's say that you play a single player game and your screen can only display 1920 x 1080p. You could use something like legacy scaling to scale up your display even a little bit higher to something like 2560 x 1440p to make your screen just look a little bit sharper still if you're playing games. But there again, guys, we don't really need this in Fortnite. Fortnite is a very cartoonish looking game and it looks just fine, even if you play it like on the lowest settings in my opinion. And I don't really think there's any pro out there who's using upscaling for this. So therefore, this is kind of like a useless feature for Fortnite. Just simply keep it on off, guys. Now, next up, guys, we have the low latency mode. And this one is very interesting because on paper, it basically limits pre-rendered frames, reducing your input delay. And usually ultra should be faster than on, but there are many Fortnite pros out there which say that on actually feels better than ultra, which doesn't make sense because ultra is a lower latency mode, if you would like to say that, because it sends pictures in real time. So what you could actually do is set this one here to ultra in your Nvidia Control Panel, but then there's also another thing which you have to apply directly in your Fortnite, and many people actually don't know this. You have to swap over to DirectX 12 and make sure that you put your Nvidia Reflex Low Latency mode on plus ultra. Then once you apply that setting directly in your Fortnite, you can even switch back to DirectX 11 or performance mode, whichever you use. It doesn't have to be DirectX 12, but the setting is still applied in the background, reducing your input delay. So therefore, please make sure that you apply both of them at the same time so that you can utilize both of these low latency features to its full potential. Next up, we have maximum frame rate, and that one you don't really need to do. I'm just gonna give you a quick example. Let's say that your PC can do anything around 240 FPS. It would make sense to lock it at 240 because if there are some instances where it could actually go above 240 FPS, your PC is just gonna run hot, especially now in summer. Let's say you have in reload some instances where you can get up to 500 FPS. Your PC is gonna build up a lot of heat because it's producing all these high FPS, and then after a couple of hours of gaming, your PC out of nowhere can only do 180 FPS now because there's so much heat built up and it needs to cool down. You know, that's what's thermal throttling. Thermal throttling happens if your PC overheats and then needs to clock down a bunch of processes so you cannot use its full potential. So therefore, if your FPS are somewhere around 240 FPS, kind of like clocked in there, you know, you maybe played a little bit, did some benchmarks maybe, then you could theoretically cap it at 240 FPS. For me personally, I keep it on ultra or unlimited at the moment. Now for multi-frame sampled AA, this is actually an interesting mode because it works the same as anti-aliasing, smoothing out edges, but the biggest difference is that it uses multiple frames actually to sort of blend in and make edges appear smoother, which means it realistically takes a little bit less performance than anti-aliasing, but as mentioned guys, still since we are playing Fortnite, I would totally keep this off. It doesn't really matter too much because Fortnite has such good visuals. You don't gotta have the smoothest edges out there. Next up, we have OpenGL GDI compatibility, and this one just simply keep on auto. I know there's a performance feature, but this one actually just handles 2D and 3D graphics, so therefore this has minimal impact on any game. You could realistically put it on maximum performance, but just simply keep it on auto, and therefore you're not gonna have any glitches or bugs in the game. Same with the GPU, you don't have to select your dedicated one, just simply keep it on auto select. Now power management mode, you can see usually this one is set to normal. Of course we want to put it to prefer maximum performance. We want to utilize every single piece of our Nvidia GeForce RTX, whatever you guys are using, you get the whole point. Then preferred refresh rate, of course this one you're also going to put to the highest available. For me guys, right now here I'm playing on a 240 Hz monitor, so therefore I want to make sure to utilize the full entire 240 Hz. There's so many people out there who are actually, by the way, playing on high refresh rate monitors, but they never changed it, so they have no clue that they could be playing a lot better. So therefore please always make sure that you double check this in your advanced display settings. Now shader cache size, this one usually you should be completely fine with leaving it on unlimited, 100 gigs or 10 gigs. But what I would rather tell you guys is just simply to go into your Windows search bar, type in the delete temporary files, make sure that you let it load in the background real quick. You can see right now here for me I have 66 gigs. Oh my god, that's so much actually. And then here you have temporary files, and then the most important one, DirectX shader cache. And after every single major Fortnite update, I actually delete my DirectX shader cache before I hop into Fortnite, because there's some data which are being created to basically speed up application load time and improve responsiveness. Which means if there's an outdated season or a new map change or any new major update in Fortnite, you actually want to delete your DirectX shader cache since it might be interrupted or not work as well with the new update. So therefore, whenever you clean up your temporary data, make sure that that one is checked, and then we're going to click under remove files, and it's going to show you that it's deleting all the temporary files, which is also going to include the DirectX shader cache. Keep in mind then, it might take a bunch of games until everything is again fully built up, because as it also says in the description guys, they will be regenerated as needed, which means if you hop then again into Fortnite, it's going to take a bunch of games again to create these shader cache files to again speed up your map loading time, joining into lobbies and all of that. But then it's going to work a lot better than before, because you have fresh DirectX shader cache which does not contain previous map updates and stuff like that. Pretty helpful feature if you ask me in my opinion. But let's close this now now and let's continue. Now next up guys, we have texture filtering, anti-strophic sample optimization, and there's a huge misunderstanding which many people actually tell you on YouTube that you should turn this off. But the thing is, you should actually turn this on, because what this does is it's gonna make your Fortnite textures look a little bit more blurry, but this blurriness is actually gonna give you a huge performance increase, because more blurry textures mean that it's easier for your GPU to render and for your system overall to render, which is gonna result in higher and more stable performance, because everything doesn't look as high quality. Therefore guys, please make sure to put this setting here actually on and not keep it on off. As mentioned, if you don't mind how your Fortnite looks like and you just simply want to get the best performance out there, like all of your favorite Fortnite pros, just simply keep it on. It's not gonna make a major difference, it's not gonna look like day and night different, but still, you know, there's a bunch of small settings like these here which we can tweak in our Nvidia Control Panel just to get better performance. And next up guys, we have LOD bias, which is the level of detail. And the funny part about this is, even though you can determine this here in the Nvidia Control Panel, you actually need the Nvidia Profile Inspector, and many of you probably know potato graphics. Well, this is exactly where you have to allow it so that you can change the level of detail of textures. So therefore, if you're not using potato graphics, this literally doesn't matter for you at all. Then texture filtering quality, this one you actually want to put to high performance guys again. I don't really care how my Fortnite looks like, I just want the best FPS genuinely. Next up guys, we have texture filtering trilinear optimization. And what this does is to basically slightly reduce texture accuracy. Again, making our textures look a little bit worse in Fortnite, but as mentioned, I don't really care about it. I just simply want the best FPS again, so therefore we're gonna turn this here actually on. Many people as well are saying you that you should turn this off, but for the best competitive advantage, I would totally recommend you to keep it on, since as mentioned, it doesn't make a huge difference in Fortnite, but all of these combined are just gonna give you more FPS. Now threaded optimization, this one you can simply leave on auto. There are barely any games where you have to determine automatically which threads are being used for Fortnite. There's maybe a CS2 or some really old Source game where you have to do it manually, but here for Fortnite, just simply keep it on auto. Now triple buffering, you want to completely turn off, and the same as well with vertical sync. Here I'm gonna put it completely off as well. The only instance where this could be helpful is if you use a 60 or 75 Hz monitor. With virtual reality pre-rendered frames, just simply keep it on the default one. Virtual reality variable rate super sampling on off, and Vulkan OpenGL you're gonna keep on auto. Now we're gonna apply all of these settings, but we're still not done yet. We're gonna click on configure surround physics, and now for the physics settings, what you actually want to do for the best performance, if your GPU is somewhat capable for gaming, let's say you have at least like an RTX, I don't know, 3060 or something like that, you should definitely utilize your GPU for the physics, which basically means physics in Fortnite directly, explosions, clouds, smoke and stuff like that. There you should utilize your GPU for it if it's not being fully utilized, because as many of you might actually know, Fortnite is actually a CPU based game, and in most games out there actually your CPU is the limiting factor. So therefore for most gamers out there, their GPU is not going to be fully utilized unless you may be playing some single player games, you know, where your GPU is actually the limiting factor. In most multiplayer scenarios, it's going to be the CPU. So we want to actually use our GPU because we have so much more power left. It's not working all the time at 100% for rendering physics. That just makes sense to overall smoothen out the experience and give us way better performance, since we want to use all of our CPU power for the actual battle royale mode. You know, like Fortnite is a huge game, you're playing with 100 people, so therefore it's really CPU intense, so you want to put this actually onto your GPU instead. And we're gonna apply this here real quick. It's gonna apply the changes, it's gonna take a few seconds, and then we're good to go. Now for change resolution guys, you want to select your main monitor, and there's also a huge mistake which many people don't do. Whenever they maybe switch over for another stretch resolution or whatever, they don't change their refresh rate to the highest one which they can use guys. Please make sure to always put it on the highest one which your monitor can output. This is super important. Next up, adjust desktop size and position. This one is also really important. What many people don't do is, if you are actually not playing with a stretch resolution, you want to use no scaling at all, because this is going to give you the lowest input delay possible. And then on the other side, if you are using a stretch resolution, you actually want to use full screen and perform the scaling on display and not on the GPU directly, because most modern monitors right now have a chipset basically built in. You know, they have the tech which you need to actually perform the scaling on your display rather than on your GPU. And there again, you're gonna put offload of your GPU onto the display, which is gonna give you a lot less input delay. The only time where this is actually not a feature is if you have maybe a little bit older monitor, if you have maybe one of the first 144 Hz panels from like 2015, 16, something like that, then maybe there isn't a display feature. But for most of you out there, please always swap it over. And now next up guys, we have adjust desktop color settings. And many people always ask me, why does my Fortnite actually look so good whenever I'm playing? And the thing is, I have kind of tweaked a little bit here my digital vibrance settings, which I have actually from Shark. These are his settings, which look a little bit better in my opinion than the current ones in Fortnite. As you can see, my brightness is set to plus 47%, contrast to plus 57%, gamma on 1.03, and then digital vibrance on 43% and HUE on 0%. Then additionally, we're also going to go over to adjust video color settings, put the brightness as well on 43%, but the saturation actually to 70. And what you can do right now as a test in front of your PC is just put the saturation all the way down and then put it up again to something like 70%, and you're going to instantly notice how the whole entire background is a lot more saturated. It looks a lot nicer actually, and your Fortnite is overall going to look a lot better. It's going to be easier to spot enemies with the higher saturation and contrast, so therefore make sure that you apply this real quick and click on a yes.